So if we take the Flight 77 as just an example of the chaos and lack of reaction, it kind of tells the story of the other ones too. First of all, according to Robert Mueller, the head of the FBI, this terrorist operation must have been in the planning for months and years. Well, you've only got to go on the internet to find out what NORAD does when it is told a plane has been hijacked or lost communication with the ground. So you are these highly trained terrorists, and your intention is to hit the Pentagon. Your plane is taking off from Washington. The Pentagon is in Washington. So what you do, even though knowing what NORAD's reaction system is, you fly the bloody plane, or allow it to be flown, right out into the Midwest, like 40 minutes an hour out. Then you hijack it, and you fly the soddy thing all the way back. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And even then, even when you've hijacked it that far out and come in, there is no reaction from the military that makes any difference to the outcome at all. Some say a plane didn't hit. I'll come to that in a second, but something bloody went off there, and certainly this Flight 77 went bloody missing. Now, the story became that what happened was that when the planes were heading for the Twin Towers, they scrambled jets from Cape Cod up on the East Coast, not that far from Boston, that kind of area, and by the time they got to the Twin Towers, oh, they just missed. And then, when this plane's coming all the way back from the Midwest, Flight 77, they scrambled jets from 130 miles away, the Langley Air Force Base, and they almost got there, but oh, just missed. I've got a question. 10 miles from the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. is the Andrews Air Force Base. They have no-fly zones over Washington. And I rang NORAD, and I said, how do you police the no-fly zones over Washington? And they said, we leave it to the Federal Civilian Administration, the Federal Aviation Administration. So I get on to them. How do you police the no-fly zone over Washington? Because, you know, the way I look at it, a plane can be in there pretty damn quickly, you know, if you don't watch them. Oh, we react as appropriate. We react as appropriate. So, you're telling me that the no-fly zone over Washington, which you can enter in kind of seconds in a plane, is policed from 130 miles away at Langley Air Force Base? It's policed from here. The Andrews Air Force Base, 10 miles down the road from the Pentagon. By the time they're off the runway, they're looking at the bloody place. No reaction from the Andrews Air Force Base to a plane coming in to hit the Pentagon. And even as the mainstream newspapers reported, immediately after the Pentagon was hit, planes, they said, were scrambled from the Andrews Air Force Base to protect the airspace over Washington. Well, what were they doing before? You know, was it, lunch go on a bit or what? Ridiculous. They were not scrambled because they weren't meant to. DC Air National Guard, the Capitol's Guardians, own website. They say here, the DC Air National Guard talks about all the planes it has, stands ready to respond to the needs of the District of Columbia and the nation should the needs arise, except on September the 11th. Not one plane took off until the Pentagon was hit and it was all over. This is from a news report about the system. It happens all the time. When a small plane recently entered the 23-mile restricted ring around the US Capitol, 2 F-16 interceptors were immediately launched from Andrews Air Force Base, just 10 miles away. In a similar episode, a pair of F-16 Fighting Falcons on a 15-minute strip alert were airborne from Andrews just 11 minutes after being notified by NORAD that a Cessna was straying towards the White House. Jumbo jet? Nah, won't bother, mate. Another cup of tea. Now, the 9/11 Commission, which the Bush administration fought so hard to stop, but eventually they couldn't, so they put a guy in who's going to come up with the right stuff, they said that NORAD mistakenly sent jets assigned to guard the nation's capital to positions over the Atlantic Ocean. Ooh, what are they doing? I thought Washington was the capital of Bermuda, mate. That's why I sent them there. It's all bollocks. An order by Dick Cheney to shoot down hijacked planes did not reach pilots until 30 minutes after Flight 93 crashed. What do they send? Carrier pigeon? It's a nonsense because it's hiding the truth of what happened. It's why they lie to us. People say, why do Bush and Blair lie so much? I said they don't lie so much. They lie all the time. They have to, because they are constructing the movie version of events to hide what's really happening. Therefore, they have to lie all the time. The 9/11 Commission said that FAA controllers lost track of Flight 77 for 36 minutes because of a glitch in the radar system. It was all going wrong that day, wasn't it? They were slow to react and there was confusion about what they do. Well, not on any other day. This is what the hijack regulations say. You get them off the internet. The NORAD escort service will be requested by the FAA hijack coordinator by direct contact with the Pentagon Command Center. If you are in doubt that a situation constitutes an emergency or potential emergency, handle it as though it was an emergency. There's no confusion there. That's what it says. That's not what they did. Now, this whole story about launching jets, that wasn't even said at the time. A few days after 9/11, a guy called General Richard Myers, who was the acting head of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, the top uniformed soldier in the American military, was asked if planes were launched before the Pentagon was hit. And he said, to the best of my knowledge, to the best of your knowledge, days later, have you not asked? To the best of my knowledge, no planes were scrambled until after the Pentagon was hit. Now, that's immediately sounded so stupid that they wouldn't react in any way. But by September the 15th, they were still saying publicly that no planes were scrambled until the Pentagon was hit. It was only on September the 19th, 8 days after 9/11, that they issued a press release from NORAD saying, actually, we did launch jets from Cape Cod and Langley Air Force Base, confirming a CBS Dan Rather report of many days earlier. So it was yes, we did, and no, we didn't. That's what he said, Myers. He then said a few days later, we've learned that they did scramble jets, and then they said they didn't, and then they said they did 8 days later. So the official story was not constructed until 8 days after the event. Now these three guys are the three top people in the American military. The Commander-in-Chief Bush, Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld, and General Myers. It's very interesting about their stories of what happened that day. First of all, where was Bush? He was down at a school in Florida. And I was in a bar in Bermuda after I'd spoken there, just after 9/11. And I was watching CNN live. And I saw Bush stand up and say, at a town meeting, as they call it, a public meeting with obviously selected guests, as usual. And he was asked by a little boy called Jordan what he was doing on that 9/11 day. And he said, well, Jordan, he said, I was at a school. He said, and I was, just before I went to the classroom, he said, I was looking at the television, he said, and I saw this plane hit the World Trade Center. And he said, this is word for word, he said, and I thought, what a terrible pilot. That's what he said. Now, the first plane was not shown on live television, only the second one. And by the time the second one hit, he is in the classroom talking to the children. No